For 10 years, I believed Sophie was my little girl. I loved her more than life itself. Then one sentence from the doctor shattered my entire world. "You're not her biological father." I froze. The world went silent. It felt like someone reached into my chest and crushed my heart. The pain was so raw, I couldn't even feel it anymore. I drove home through the darkness, hands shaking on the wheel. Streetlights slid past like cold, pale streaks. On the passenger seat, Sophie's teddy bear, her bedtime companion, sat slumped, its round black eyes staring at me. As if to ask, "What's wrong, Daddy? What happened?" 10 years. I gave up promotions. I buried my own dreams. All for one thing, to be a good father. I still remember her 8th birthday. She wrapped her little arms around me, her eyes sparkling like an angel's. "Daddy, I love you more than anyone in the whole world." I let out a bitter laugh. 10 years of love, and now it was all built on a lie? Claire, my wife, never gave me a single clue. She cared for our family. She still called me honey every night in that soft, soothing voice. But now, those sweet words echo in my head like 1,000 tiny knives. She betrayed me. She lied to me and let me raise a child who isn't even my blood. But it didn't end there. Last night, as I sat alone in my car, my phone buzzed. A deep male voice came through the line. "James, I'm Sophie's real father. We need to meet." I froze again. That night, I stood outside Sophie's bedroom door. Through the crack, I heard her steady breathing. Her tiny legs curled up like a kitten. Part of me wanted to leave. Walk away. Let it all collapse. But another part whispered, "She's still your daughter. Blood doesn't make a father. Love does." I walked into the living room. Claire was sitting on the couch, phone in hand. She jumped when she saw me. "James, what's wrong? You look different." I clenched my fists. My voice came out cold, low, like ice. "I know everything, Claire. And you should know this too. Sophie's real father called me last night. My name is James Miller. I'm 40. A history teacher at a small middle school in town. I'm not special. But for a long time, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. Claire, my wife, is a nurse. We met 12 years ago, on a rainy afternoon, at a tiny cafe near the hospital where she worked. Claire had warm brown eyes and a smile so gentle. A smile that made me believe she was meant to be the mother of my children. 2 years later, we got married. It wasn't fancy. No big parties. Just family. A few close friends. As we stood before the altar, I gripped Claire's hand and whispered, "I'll love you for the rest of my life." She looked up, her eyes glistening, and nodded. We started our life in a small house on the edge of town. It took me 5 years of saving to buy it. The place was simple, an old sagging sofa, a crooked painting on the wall, and a tiny garden where Claire planted lavender. But to me, it was everything. Every evening, I'd come home to the sound of Claire's laughter, blending with Sophie's little voice from the kitchen. That sound, it melted all my exhaustion away. Sophie, my daughter, the best thing that ever happened to me. I still remember the day Claire told me she was pregnant. She held up the test in trembling hands, her voice breaking. "James, I'm going to be a mom." I pulled her close, held her as tight as I could. That happiness, I can still feel it. Even now. Sophie was born on a cool spring morning. She had soft blonde hair and bright blue eyes, just like mine. The first time I held her, I made a promise. Whatever it takes, I'll protect her. For the rest of my life, I'm not a perfect man. I'm not rich, not handsome, not brilliant. But every day, I tried my damn best to be a good father, a good husband. Sophie grew up wrapped in our love. She's smart, kind, and she clings to me like I'm her whole world. Every night, before bed, she'd run up, throw her tiny arms around my neck, and whisper, "Daddy, I love you more than anyone in the world." Claire would stand by the doorway, watching us with soft eyes. She'd say quietly, "You're the best father a child could ever have, James." And I believed her. I believed this family was unshakable, that it was the one thing in my life that would never break. But lately, there were cracks. Nights when Claire came home late, saying she had to cover a night shift. Moments when I caught her clutching her phone, texting someone, her eyes flickering with something, a look I couldn't quite name, when she realized I was standing there. I told myself, she's tired. It's just the stress of work. Don't doubt her. I trusted Claire. Or maybe I just wanted to trust her. And right when I thought our life was steady, that's when the first crack appeared. These past few months, I started feeling something strange in my own home. Claire was still gentle, still caring for Sophie like always. But sometimes, I'd catch her looking at me with distant eyes. That look, it wasn't warm anymore. There were nights when Claire said she had to cover a shift at the hospital. And I believed her, the way a husband is supposed to believe his wife. But then, one night, I woke up in the middle of the night, unable to sleep. I noticed a faint glow coming from under the bathroom door. Through the crack, I saw Claire texting someone. Her face tense. I knocked gently. "You're still up? It's late." She startled, quickly turned off the screen. "Oh, I was just checking tomorrow's shift schedule." Claire smiled at me. But that smile, it didn't feel like the one I used to know. The next day, while holding her phone to schedule a dentist appointment for Sophie, the screen lit up with a new message. From an unknown number. "Last night, I missed you." I froze. Before I could read more, Claire stepped out of the bathroom. She reached out quickly, taking the phone from my hand. "Let me call. I still have some work messages to reply to." Her voice wavered slightly. I said nothing. But inside, it felt like a hand was gripping my chest, tighter and tighter. Did I really trust Claire? Or was I just pretending to trust her so I wouldn't have to face the truth? One morning, as I was making breakfast for Sophie, she walked into the kitchen, clutching her stomach. "Daddy, it hurts here." It hurt so much. Panic shot through me. I knelt beside her. Her tiny hands gripped mine tightly. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Her lips pale. Claire rushed in, her face white as a sheet. "We have to get her to the hospital." Now. At the hospital, they ran blood tests on Sophie. As I sat waiting outside the exam room, my heart was pounding out of my chest. A quiet fear crept in. They say men are supposed to be strong, but how can you be strong when that little girl is your entire world? That afternoon, the doctor called Claire and me into his office. His face was grave. "We suspect Sophie may have a blood disorder. We'll need further tests to find a compatible bone marrow donor." I squeezed Claire's hand and nodded firmly. "I'll do whatever it takes to save her. Take my blood." Now, I walked out of the clinic with a heavy heart. Driving home, Sophie sat in the back seat, her face pale, but she still managed a weak smile. "Daddy, I'll be okay." "Don't worry." I bit my lip, holding back the tears clawing at my eyes. "I'll do everything to make sure you're okay, Sophie." Everything. But I didn't know. The hardest fall of my life was still waiting for me. 3 days later, my phone rang. "Mr. Miller, we need you and your wife to come in. We need to discuss Sophie's blood test results in person." The doctor's voice was calm. Too calm. But it landed heavy in my chest, like a boulder crushing me from the inside. On the drive to the hospital, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tight the knuckles turned white. Claire sat in the passenger seat, silent. Her fingers intertwined, nails gently digging into her palms, like she was trying to hold herself together. I glanced at her. "Why are you so quiet? Aren't you worried about Sophie?" She flinched slightly, forcing a faint smile. I'm just thinking of good things. Sophie's going to be okay." But even in that smile, I saw it. Something was different. It wasn't warm anymore. It wasn't real. It was a mask She was desperately trying to keep on. We stepped into the doctor's office. A small room, faintly smelling of antiseptic. The doctor sat behind his desk, eyes fixed on a file, fingers twisting a pen as he drew in a long breath. My chest tightened. "Is something wrong, doctor? Is there a problem with the results?" Before he could answer, I caught Claire glancing at him. A look in her eyes, pleading, almost desperate. A chill ran down my spine. Why is she looking at him like that? What is she hiding from me? The doctor set the pen down and spoke slowly. "Mr. Miller, the results show you're not a match to donate bone marrow to Sophie." I frowned. "What do you mean? I'm her biological father." He took a deep breath, his voice dropping lower. "I'm very sorry to tell you this, but the DNA results confirm you and Sophie are not biologically related." Those words, like an icy blade plunging straight into my heart. I froze. The world around me went silent. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and crushed my heart in their fist. I loved that little girl more than my own life. And now, a DNA test said I was nothing but a stranger? No, this couldn't be real. There had to be a mistake. My voice trembled, hoarse and broken. "Are you sure? Run the test again." "There's no way. Something's wrong." The doctor shook his head, eyes heavy with regret. "We tested twice to be certain." The results matched completely. I turned to Claire. Looked straight into her eyes. "Claire, is there something you want to tell me?" She lowered her head. Her hands clutched each other so tight, her knuckles went pale. "James, Say it. Sophie, whose child is she?" My voice rose, every word ripped from the deepest part of my chest. Claire looked up, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry. I never wanted this to happen. I didn't know how to tell you." I slammed my hand on the desk. The pen clattered to the floor. "Tell me!" Claire screamed back, her voice breaking apart. "She's Mark's. A former colleague of mine. That name." It hit me like a fist to the gut. Mark. The man who used to give Claire rides home in the early days of our marriage, back when I was working late nights to pay off this house. "He's just a friend, James. I told you that once." Her old words echoed in my head, like a blade twisting deep in a wound that hadn't even begun to heal. I gave 10 years of my life, just to find out I was nothing but a replacement. The air in the doctor's office was so heavy, I swear I could hear a pin drop. Claire collapsed onto the floor, her hands covering her face as sobs shook her body. And I just stood there, frozen. 10 years. 10 years I poured my whole heart into loving and protecting this family. And now, with just a few words, it all came crashing down, like a sandcastle against a raging tide. I wanted to scream, to smash everything in sight. But I couldn't. Sophie. She was lying in a hospital room just a few hallways away. She didn't know any of this. She still believed I was her one and only father. I took a deep breath. My voice came out low, rough, strangled in my throat. "Claire, how long have you been lying to me?" She lifted her tear-streaked face, lips trembling. "James, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to tell you. It was a mistake. Just one mistake." "Just one mistake?" A bitter laugh slipped out, sharp and hollow. "One mistake, and you ended up with a child? One mistake, and you hid it from me for 10 years? Claire buried her face in her hands again, tears dripping onto the cold floor. "I was scared. I was scared of losing you. I thought, if Sophie came into the world, you'd never question anything." I turned away. I couldn't bear to look at her anymore. The face I once knew better than my own now felt like that of a stranger. And in my head, I heard Sophie's little voice. "Daddy, I love you more than anything in the world." My chest tightened. Was I really going to let one mistake destroy her whole world? Did an innocent child deserve to pay the price for the choices of the grown-ups? I drew in a long, deep breath, swallowing the rage that burned through me. "All right. We'll talk later, but not here. Don't let Sophie see you like this." Claire nodded weakly, wiping at her tears. But her eyes still brimmed with fear. That night, I couldn't sleep. Sophie was in the next room, sound asleep, clutching her old teddy bear to her chest. I stared up at the ceiling, my mind spinning with 1,000 questions. For 10 years, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. But all this time, was I just a shadow of another man? I grabbed my phone. Scrolling through Claire's contact list, one I'd synced to my own device long ago. And there it was. Mark's number. I opened their old messages. And my chest tightened as I read one line. Last night, I missed you. What about the little one? My hand clenched around the phone, cold sweat gathering in my palm. Does Mark know about Sophie? Or was it just a careless comment? I needed answers. The whole truth. That morning, Claire took Sophie back to the hospital for more tests. I told them I had errands to run. But instead, I drove straight to Claire's old workplace, the hospital where she worked when Sophie was born. I tracked down one of her former colleagues, pretending to be an old college friend, looking for information. The woman hesitated. Her eyes darted around nervously before she finally whispered, "Mark, he left the hospital a few months after Claire gave birth. I heard he moved to Chicago." Disappeared after that. The way she said it, the look in her eyes, it sent a shiver down my spine. Something about all this felt wrong. Back in my car, I gripped the steering wheel tight as a cold resolve settled in my chest. If Mark knows about Sophie, he'll show up eventually. But if he doesn't, I'll make damn sure he never steps into her life. I don't know how this will end. But one thing I do know for certain. Sophie is my daughter. Blood or no blood, she's still my little girl. I came home after dark. Claire and Sophie were curled up on the sofa. Sophie rested her head on her mother's shoulder, her eyes half closed from exhaustion after a long day of tests. "Daddy, you're home?" Her voice was weak, but she still managed a tiny smile. My heart clenched. She had no idea that my entire world had just collapsed. I walked over, knelt down, and kissed her forehead softly. "Yeah, Daddy's home?" "How are you feeling?" "A little tired, but I'll be okay." "Don't worry, Daddy." Claire looked at me. Her eyes were red and puffy. I couldn't read her anymore. The woman I once trusted more than anyone now felt like a stranger. When Sophie finally fell asleep, Claire and I sat across from each other in the living room. The silence between us, it was suffocating. "James, I know I've destroyed everything. I have no excuse, but please don't leave Sophie. She needs you." I stared at the teacup on the table, my voice low and heavy like stone. "Claire, do you even realize what you've taken from me? For 10 years, I believed I was Sophie's real father. And now, what am I supposed to do with this truth?" Claire sobbed, her shoulders shaking. "I know I was wrong. But the love you have for Sophie, that hasn't changed, has it?" I clenched my fists so hard my knuckles turned white. "My loved one has never changed. But do you have any idea what it feels like to discover you've been nothing but a replacement?" Claire cried out, her voice breaking with desperation. "James, you're not a replacement. You're Sophie's father. You're everything to her." I locked eyes with her. My voice cold as ice. "Mark, does he know about Sophie?" Claire froze. Fear flashed across her face. I don't think so." "You don't think, or you know for sure?" She lowered her head. Silent. I hired a private investigator. The man had a weathered face, eyes that seemed to cut through every lie. "You're sure you want to find Mark? He might have built a whole new life." "Digging up the past, it won't be pleasant." I answered flatly. "I need the truth. Sophie is everything to me. And I'll protect her, no matter the cost." 2 days later, the investigator called back. I found Mark. He's living in Chicago, runs a small company. And there's something you should know. I gripped the phone tight, my heart pounding in my chest. "Go on." "Mark has known about Sophie for years." The words hit me like a bolt of lightning. "Are you sure he knows?" "Positive." I uncovered a string of old emails between Claire and Mark. In them, Mark demanded to meet Sophie, But Claire begged him to stay out of their lives. I leaned back against the wall. My fists clenched so tight my palms began to bleed. Why? Why had Claire hidden this from me, again? If Mark steps into Sophie's life, will she still call me Daddy? I sat alone in my car, parked outside, staring at the warm glow of Sophie's bedroom window. In my head, Mark's voice echoed, "What about the little one?" And Claire's voice, trembling, "I was scared of losing you. What did I do wrong to deserve life hitting me with blows like these?" 3 days after the call from the investigator, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment before picking up. A deep, calm male voice came through. "James, it's Mark." My chest tightened. The air around me felt thick, choking. "What do you want?" I tried to keep my voice steady, but every word felt heavy as lead. "We need to meet. I don't want this to drag on any longer." "Meet? What makes you think you have the right to meet me?" Mark was silent for a moment. Then his voice dropped lower. "The right of a man who loves that little girl as much as you do." His words made my blood boil. "Love? You've never changed her diaper. Never stayed up all night when she had a fever. What gives you the right to call it love?" Mark's voice stayed calm, but there was a firmness beneath it. "Maybe you're right, but Sophie is my daughter. And the law recognizes that too." Those words hit me like a hammer to the chest. "Are you threatening me?" I growled, my voice breaking from deep in my chest. "No, James. I'm just reminding you, blood ties can't be erased." "Blood ties? You think a few drops of blood give you the right to walk into her life and erase 10 years of me raising her?" My fists clenched so tight I felt my palms sting with pain. Mark sighed. "We shouldn't argue over the phone. I'm in town, the cafe near the bus station. Tonight, kid. If you don't come, I'll find another way to see Sophie." That line hit me like a punch to the gut. "You dare!" I snarled. "I don't want this to get ugly, James. Come, if you truly love her." Claire's eyes went wide with panic when she saw me putting on my coat. "James, where are you going?" "To meet Mark," I said flatly, my eyes fixed on my shoes like a soldier about to step onto a battlefield. Claire lunged forward, grabbing my hand. "Don't go. He's not worth it. Sophie needs you calm." I looked deep into her tearful eyes, my voice dropping low. "I'm not doing this for Mark. I'm doing it for Sophie." The cafe near the bus station was nearly empty. Mark sat in a dim corner, the warm light casting shadows over his face. A man about my age, with deep, unreadable eyes. As I approached, he stood up. "James, sit down." I cut him off, my voice cold as ice. "I know you hate me. I don't blame you. I didn't come here to destroy your family. I just need to know if she's happy." I let out a bitter laugh. "What do you think I've been doing for the past 10 years? Do you think I haven't given her happiness?" Mark gripped his coffee cup tighter, his voice dropping lower. "I once received an email from Claire. She begged me to disappear so Sophie could grow up in a whole family. And I did. But now, I want to see her. Just once." "Just once?" I repeated, my eyes sharp as blades. "And after that? What happens after this once? What do you really want? Parental rights? Custody?" Mark stayed silent, his gaze piercing through me. "I didn't come here to demand anything. But I can't promise. This will be the last time." His words twisted like a knife in my chest. I remembered those nights when Sophie sat in my lap, her tiny arms wrapped around my neck as she whispered, "Daddy, I love you more than anything in the world." What right did I have to refuse him? But what right did I have to let another man step into her life? Mark looked at me, his voice trembling slightly, but his eyes cold. "I don't want to take her away. But I won't disappear forever either. Someday, Sophie will know who I am. And when she does, are you sure she'll choose you?" I stayed silent. "Some questions. Don't have a right answer." I sat alone in the car, parked outside the house. A warm yellow glow spilled out from Sophie's bedroom window. She was sound asleep, clutching her old teddy bear like it held her whole world together. And in my head, Mark's words from the cafe echoed. Are you sure she'll choose you? I had never felt fear like this. Not in my entire life. Fear of losing Sophie. Fear of losing the one thing that gave my existence meaning. I'm the only father she's ever known. But if Sophie learns the truth, will she still call me Daddy? Claire stepped into the kitchen, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. James, you haven't said anything to Sophie about this, have you? I shook my head. You really think I'd shatter her world like that? Claire's voice trembled. Mark, he's not a bad man. He wanted to be in her life before, but I begged him to disappear. And he did. I let out a bitter laugh, my eyes darkening. Disappear? Do you know what he said to me last night? He said, there will come a day when Sophie learns the truth. And when that happens, who knows who she'll choose? Claire froze. Her hands shook. James, I'm sorry. I didn't think he would. I wanted to believe no one could ever love Sophie more than I do. But if Mark really steps in, what then? My phone rang. It was the investigator. You need to hear this. Mark has hired a lawyer. He's considering pursuing legal parental rights. My heart pounded. Legal rights? He's planning to take Sophie to court? I can't say for sure yet. But if he wants to, he has every right to file for visitation. I hung up, my hands trembling. Outside, Sophie laughed as she played in the yard. Her voice rang out like music, pure, innocent. I could lose everything, because of a mistake that wasn't even mine. Later, I sat in the living room, clutching a coffee mug, with shaking hands. Claire rushed in, her face pale, holding out her phone. James, you need to hear this. She handed me the phone. On the screen, an audio recording of Mark's voice played. I've stayed silent for 10 years. Don't force me into the light. Sophie deserves to know who her real father is. And if James won't agree, I'll take this to court. I froze. My hand clenched so tight the mug shattered, porcelain slicing into my skin. Blood trickled down my palm. But I didn't feel a thing. Claire gasped in panic. James, you're bleeding. I brushed her hand away, my voice deep and thunderous. Pain on the skin means nothing compared to pain in the heart. What am I supposed to do? If one day Sophie looks at me with distant eyes and calls another man Daddy, can I survive that? What will it take? To keep her with me? I sat alone in the living room. The blood on my hand had dried, leaving dark streaks across my skin. Outside, the night wind whistled through bare tree branches. It sounded like the heavy sighs trapped in my chest. And in my head, Mark's words echoed. I've stayed silent for 10 years. Don't push me into the light. At the lawyer's office, I sat across from Mark. He looked calm on the surface, but his eyes, they weren't soft anymore. They were sharp, cold, like a blade. James, I know you hate me, but Sophie deserves to know who her biological father is. I cut him off, my voice low and cold, each word like a nail being driven in. Rights? You call that a right? You'd tear her whole world apart just to satisfy your so-called right. Mark inhaled sharply. His hands clenched so tight they trembled. Do you think I wanted this? I stayed away for 10 years, because Claire begged me to. But now I can't anymore. If you don't let me see Sophie, the court will decide. My chest tightened. Anger surged through me, making my hands shake violently. Are you threatening me? Mark met my gaze, steady and unflinching. No, James. I'm protecting my daughter, just like you are. What was I supposed to do? If I let Mark in, Sophie would learn the truth. But if I didn't, this would all come out in court. And Sophie, she would be the one hurt the most. That night, I sat in Sophie's room. She was curled up, clutching her teddy bear, long lashes fluttering as she slept. I whispered, Sophie, I'm so sorry. I promised I'd always protect you, but now I don't know what the right way is. Claire stepped in, her eyes red and swollen. James, I know this is the hardest choice you'll ever make. But she deserves to know the truth. I shook my head, my voice hoarse. If one day Sophie looks at me with distant eyes, if she calls another man Daddy, I couldn't survive that. Claire placed a trembling hand on my shoulder. But if she grows up and learns you kept this from her, she'll hate you even more. The next morning, I called Mark. I'll let you meet Sophie, but only once. And I'll be there. Sophie held my hand tightly as we walked into the park, the place I had agreed to meet Mark. Mark was already there, standing under a tree. His eyes welled up when he saw her, the eyes of a man who had waited a decade for this moment. "Daddy, who's that?" Sophie looked up at me, her innocent eyes cutting deep into my soul. I knelt down, my voice trembling. "Sophie, this is a friend of mine. A very special friend." Mark knelt too, his hands shaking. "Hi there. I'm Mark." Sophie stared at him for a long moment, then turned to me. "Daddy, why does he look so sad when he sees me?" That question, it felt like an icy blade twisting in my chest. I squeezed her little hand, my voice breaking. "He's just missing someone very important, sweetheart." Mark swallowed hard, a tear sliding down his cheek. "I understand. I only wanted to see her. Just once." I gripped Sophie's hand tighter, my eyes blurred with tears. "Thank you for not taking her away from me." Mark turned away, his shoulders trembling. "I'm just another man, trying to do the right thing." That night, after Sophie had drifted to sleep, I sat by her bed and whispered, "Tomorrow, you might learn the truth. But tonight, you still call me Daddy. And for me, that's enough." 3 days had passed since that meeting in the park. Sophie was still running around the house, laughing and playing, as if her little world had never been cracked open. But me, I hadn't slept a single peaceful night since. Every evening, I sat alone in the dark, listening to the sound of Sophie's steady breathing in the next room. I was terrified that one day, the word Daddy would no longer belong to me. Claire came over, holding a cup of coffee. Her eyes were tired, but there was a softness in them. Mark just sent a message. He wanted to thank us for giving him the chance to meet Sophie. I didn't answer. My eyes stayed fixed on the crumpled piece of paper Sophie had given me last night. A child's drawing. 3 figures, me, Sophie, and Claire, standing under a crooked roof. At the top, in wobbly letters, it said, "I love Daddy more than anything in the world." Claire placed her hand gently on my shoulder, her voice trembling. "James, you're the only one Sophie needs." "I know that." I nodded faintly, my voice heavy, carrying the weight of a whole world. "I'm not so sure anymore, Claire. Mark is her biological father. That's a truth I can't change." She gripped my hand tightly. "But you gave Sophie the whole world. And to her, love means more than blood." I wanted to believe her. But fear clung to me like a shadow I couldn't shake. "James, I wanted to thank you." Mark's voice came through, low and steady. "I've envied you, James. You had 10 years with Sophie, memories I'll never have." He paused, taking a deep breath. "But I know now, Sophie belongs with you. I won't interfere anymore." I gripped the phone tighter, my voice hoarse. "Are you sure?" Mark replied, his voice trembling slightly. "I've already lost 10 years. I don't want Sophie growing up with 2 men fighting over her. Love her twice as much. For my share, too." "Can you do that?" I closed my eyes. A single tear slid down my cheek. A strange ache filled my chest, a sorrow that wasn't just mine, but belonged to all 3 of us. Sophie wrapped her little arms around my neck, holding me tight as she whispered, "Daddy, when I grow up, will you still play with me?" My throat tightened. A tear slipped free, tracing a hot line down my face. I hugged her tighter, my voice breaking. "I'll always be here, no matter what." As Sophie drifted to sleep in my arms, 10 years of memories came flooding back. The laughter, the tears, the sleepless nights. I used to think being a father meant bringing a child into this world. But now I know, being a father means staying, even when you don't share the same blood. 3 weeks had passed since Mark left town. No more messages. No more calls. Just me and Sophie. Every morning, I hear Sophie giggling as she plays with her stuffed dog. That sound? Like a cool stream washing over the wounds in my heart that are still bleeding. Sometimes, Claire watches me quietly as I care for Sophie. She once whispered, I was wrong, James. You're the only man Sophie will ever need. I didn't answer. I just held Sophie tighter when she looked up at me and said, "Daddy, give me a kiss." I used to be terrified of losing Sophie, but now I understand. There are things no one can ever take away, like the love between her and me. Sophie sat on the porch, coloring a new picture. She scribbled down a wobbly line of words. "Daddy is my superhero." I sat beside her, watching silently. Out of nowhere, I asked, "Sophie, what if one day another man told you that you're his daughter? What would you think?" She looked up at me, her big round eyes shining. "But you're my daddy." "I only have one daddy." Her answer hit me like a wave. A tear, hot and unrelenting, slipped down my cheek. And in that moment, I realized I didn't need anything else. That night, Sophie slept peacefully in my arms. In her dreams, she murmured, "Daddy, don't go. I love you." My chest tightened, and another tear escaped before I could stop it. I held her closer, as if letting go would make everything vanish. I used to think being a father meant bringing a child into the world. But now I know being a father means staying, even when everyone else has gone. The next morning, I opened my phone and found a new email from Mark. "James, you don't have to worry. I'll keep my word. Sophie deserves a peaceful home. You are the man Sophie needs. I'll stay out of her life. But I ask you one thing. Never let her believe she's unworthy of love." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Part of me felt relief, but another part still ached for all of us. Later that morning, Sophie woke up, wrapped her little arms around my neck, and whispered, "Daddy, last night I dreamed I was a princess. And you were my knight." I smiled, hugging her close. "That's right, I'm your knight. And I'll protect my princess with my whole life." Outside the window, sunlight streamed through the leaves, painting the room in gold. For the first time in weeks, I felt peace. Tomorrow, Sophie may learn the truth. Tomorrow, she might call another man Dad, but today she still calls me Daddy. And that alone is enough to keep me going.